Dressed up with nowhere to go, Steve.
Boy, I wish we could trade COVID fever for some travel fever.
Lori would love it if I was gone and on the road.
I wonder where my suitcase is.
Are we going someplace?
Do I have any real pants that fit?
I'd love to go back to the days when we had our face-to-face conference, the bird at luncheon.
What if we could go back in time to the time of Wiley and Blackburn and Grosvenor?
Well, we can't ever go back, but we could go to Toledo.
Well, here we are in Toledo, Ohio, the home of the Toledo Mudhens. And isn't this a cool mural? It kind of showcases a lot of the historical things that have occurred in Toledo.
But Joe, I think it's missing the most important thing. Where is the meeting with Commissioner Blackburn and Commissioner Grosvenor? Wasn't that here in Toledo?
It absolutely was. Commissioner Grosvenor made his way down here to Toledo to meet his counterpart in Toledo to talk about uniformity issues, and from that discussion, our association gave birth.
Well, Joe, maybe we should go find something historic that was from that period of time and see what that was like in Toledo.
Yeah, there was a lot of construction. You know what we should do is go to a church. They've got some real historical churches here.
Well, holy Toledo!
Let's go.
This is definitely why they say holy Toledo.
Yeah, I guess the city in the late 19th century went through an era of grand construction with churches.
Can you believe in 1896, this is where the commissioners of food and dairy from Michigan and Ohio came together and AFDO began?
In that day, all of the regulations for food safety and drug safety were at the state and local levels.
They were, but they had the vision to realize they needed to bring their colleagues from across the country together.
We need to be quiet here in church. Maybe we should go someplace else.
Okay, Joe.
So, where are we going to go? Where are we going to go?
It's a surprise, Joe. I can't tell you yet.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh, this way, Joe. We're here, Joe.
This is the big surprise?
No, that's the big surprise.
The Cadillac Hotel? That's hallowed ground.
It is hallowed ground. In 1897, the commissioners of food and dairy from across the country came here to form AFDO. That point, Detroit was just getting rid of their horse-drawn streetcars, electrifying the trolley system, and these commissioners were traveling great distances to come here.
They traveled from Colorado, from Connecticut, Iowa, Minnesota, Massachusetts, Michigan, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin.
It was just a completely different era, and they traveled so far.
We need to go to the Cadillac.
We do need to go to the Cadillac.
Hey, what a better way to celebrate AFDO's 125th anniversary than to be here at Kent, Indiana, the birthplace of Dr. Harvey W. Wiley.
We are here in southeast Indiana in the rolling hills of the Ohio River at Dr. Wiley's birthplace and home. This sign was erected on AFDO's 75th anniversary in 1981, or the 51st anniversary of Dr. Wiley's death.
Dr. Wiley had many, many names. He was known as Old Borax for his efforts in against the use of preservatives in foods. He was known as the Crusader. We know him most for being the father of food and drug law because of his efforts of working with our association and the consumer groups of those days to pass the 1906 Federal Food and Drug Act.
Dr. Wiley was a teacher and a teacher in medicine, and then a teacher at Purdue. He eventually went on to apply to be president of Purdue, not being successful at that, and then moving on to USDA. One thing to note here, as you can hear, they are preparing for AFDO's 125th anniversary here, rebuilding the road, doing a little construction, adding a new bridge, ready for all the visitors in honor of this historic occasion.
And what about Dr. Wiley's cat, Poison?
Yeah, he's been a guest here all morning talking with us, and we're very excited to have such a guest. It probably is a relative of Dr. Wiley's cat.
I think he probably is.
We are at the studio where Bob Ross filmed his Joy of Painting. For many of you that might remember, it was the classic show of the 80s and early 90s on PBS that taught many of us how to make happy trees and beautiful mountain settings, etc. It was what I watched every Saturday afternoon as a kid. I don't know about the rest of you. But we should also remember, Muncie is also the home from one of AFDO's famous individuals. Ellen Buchanan is from Muncie.
Mm. So he's a painter?
He's a painter, yes.
I thought he was a barber.
I wish. We need a haircut here.
Purdue University. This is the Wiley building there. Purdue was created in 1875, and that same year, Dr. Wiley was offered a position there.
He was also the Indiana state chemist, and he was passed over for president of Purdue. He was too young, jovial, a bachelor, and had what was considered to be unorthodox religious beliefs.
You know, then he was appointed chief chemist with USDA, and while in that position, he worked with Congress to look at the effects of preservatives that were being used in foods in that day. In fact, he got $5,000 from the Congress to do a study to determine what those effects were. And he got 12 men to volunteer to consume these foods that were adulterated with these preservatives. They called that group the Poison Squad. And he actually would poison those individuals with foods that were adulterated with all these different preservatives.
Well, eventually, Dr. Wiley got into trouble with enough presidents and secretaries of agriculture to decide it was time to leave USDA. And in 1912, he went to Good Housekeeping magazine, where he worked at their magazine labs and eventually was the father of their Good Housekeeping seal of approval.
He was really an interesting individual, and I think maybe we should talk a little bit about his relationship with our organization and some of the things that he has done with us. First of all and foremost, he was a member of our organization.
He spoke at many of our conferences.
Yes, and he collaborated with us very frequently, particularly in the pursuit of a federal food and drug law. In fact, AFDO sent its legislative committee to Washington to encourage the Congress to pass that law.
He also thanked AFDO at the conference following the passage of the act for their support and assistance.
And let's not forget that the passage of that law led to the formation of the Food and Drug Administration.
And he's considered to be the father of the Food and Drug Administration, and essentially its first commissioner.
That's right. And you know, it's interesting that even today, we continue to work on similar issues that we did way back during Dr. Wiley's time, uniformity issues with things such as cannabis and creating an integrated food safety system. We continue to do that here 125 years later.
You are correct. Well, let's go back and resume our conference, Joe, and kind of finish up our trip.
Let's go.